These are the top 3 problems that you're going to get in a Pico Reef tank time and time again. A Pico Reef tank is a tank under 4 gallons. This tank right here is one, and let me tell you, there's some problems. The first and most obvious is the space that you're limited to. Your main structure has to be in the center of the tank so that you can reach all the way around it for algae scraping, right? So already you're reducing even more of your space, which means you've got a lot less space for corals and for livestock. Now, the second thing about space is exactly that, livestock. I can't think of anything that could possibly go in here. I've got one snail that you can kind of see right here. That's all. The second problem that's going to come up every time is for coral lovers, and that is coral health. If you know a little bit about corals, you'll know all about coral warfare. In a tank like this, you have to be so strategic about where you're placing your corals and the minimum distances between them. My recommendation, if you're going to go Pico, don't go for corals that are notorious for stinging one another. So zoas are pretty good because they keep to themselves. Recordia corals, mushroom corals are also pretty good as long as they don't actually get touched by other corals. There's plenty of options. Do not try and go for Euphilia unless you're going to do a Euphilia only tank, that sort of thing. And last but not the least frustrating out of all of these is the stability of your tank. Everyone knows in reefing, the most important thing is stability, stability, stability.
Stability, the most important thing with any reef tank.
Less water or a smaller tank means less stability inherently, which means that your tank needs way more regular maintenance, way more regular water changes, etc., etc. Now, even if you can get around the whole coral warfare thing and you work out your tank, you then have the added issue or the problem that keeps popping up of your corals will consume nutrients. Nutrients aren't plentiful in a tank that's so small, and if they are, you're going to get a nitrate spike. So there's a fine line here. It's not worth setting up a dosing system on a little tiny tank like this. The most logical thing for you to do is regular water changes. I've noticed that after a water change, about 4 days go by, and on that 4th day, my corals start to show signs that they're not loving their environment, which goes to show that they've consumed the vital nutrients in the water and they're in need of a top up. Now, water changing a little tank twice a week is tedious, but that being said, with 2 water changes per week, this tank tends to stay really, really happy and healthy, and all the corals seem to thrive, except for the whole coral warfare issue. I'm still getting around that, and I don't think I'm ever not going to be fighting that battle. Pests is the next thing. When you're trying to remove things like aptasia, you're using chemicals that are designed to kill corals. If you accidentally get some of that on some of your healthy corals, you're going to get an unhealthy coral. There's a massive aptasia here who is ready to be removed. But once they get large enough and they start hurting the coral, I will pull the actual coral out. It's still on a frag plate, and I will just scratch off that aptasia and totally manually remove it myself, which stops me having to use chemicals. Unless you really want to be fighting this battle, you kind of have to let the pests live with the corals. Other pests like bristleworms, I've let leave be as well because they kind of add to the cleanup group. Now, the last part, which is impossible to get around, is the stability of your tank. Every time you downsize your tank, you're downsizing the body of water, which means you're downsizing the stability that that tank inherently has. To go below, say, a 100-liter tank, it's such a volatile balance that though this can look amazing, the visual appeal is so good, unless you're willing to do that 2 times a week water change or have less corals in there, which I'm just not willing to do, you're going to have to maintain, or go for a bigger tank. Simple as that. So Pico tanks can be an amazing way to add some color to your desk at work, or to frag corals, or to create a micro environment that just looks amazing. But unless you're willing to do the work necessary, maybe it's time to rethink whether Pico is for you. Micro might be an easier step unless you're a bit more of an advanced reefer. Just know, for me, in a tank with this many corals, it takes about 2 water changes per week, bit of algae scraping, and that's about it, actually. Thanks for watching, guys, and hit subscribe to see more videos just like this.